So now comes the part of the block that was there and the downside of the embedded system architecture that embedded system structure that we have seen. So here I'm just bringing you to back to that diagram so that you will remain connected. So what we have seen so far is we have seen the sensors, we have seen the output. So here is an input, is an output. We have seen microcontrollers. Within the microcontrollers, we have seen the IOs, we have seen the memory, we have seen time. We are now talking, we are going to talk about the communication interface. So that will complete the need of, or the components those are needed for the embedded system. So now the world is digital world is like say completely connected world. It is embedded devices. Early 90s, early 2000 were just an idle device, a smart device which is self-sufficient in itself. But now it is not the case. So everything, every component, every smart device is connected in the network now. So you must be listening the word of internet of things. So everywhere you go, it is an internet of things. Every embedded device is connected to each other, and they are connected, they are discussing, they are exchanging information, they are becoming more smarter, they are learning through that information, they are taking their own decisions with this information. So for that, there are different types of communications needs to be established, and for that we need to understand this kind of communications. Basically there are two types of communications. There is a serial communication and there is parallel communication. Again, these are every slide that I'm taking, it is a big chunk of topic, can take at least an hour to discuss. So I'm just touch basing it just so as to introduce you what you will need to study it in detail. So serial communication is just kind of communication that is you will see it has a single line connection, and every bit of the information, every bit of data is getting serially transmitted from a transmitter to a receiver. So one bit at a time it will move from one point to another. Uh, at opposite to parallel communication, it will have some lines connected, and it will have parallelly data moving from one point to another. So that is the basic difference between serial and parallel communication. Serial communications being very cost effective than the parallel communication, obviously because of the lines that we are talking about. But although serial communications are a little bit slower than the parallel communications, but still in the in embedded systems, serial communications are very majoritarily used, majorly used. So that is there are different examples of serial communication that I will talk about, but those are very widely used. Then there are again two types of protocols comes into the picture, like inter-system protocol and intra-system protocol. So what all intra-system and what is inter-system? We just talked about we just see division into the memory part when we were discussing about is like something that external memory and something on chip of memory. It is the same thing for even for considering for the memory also. So internal on chip memory is like say intra-system protocol is used to uh, copy data or read data, write data through the on chip memory devices. For say EEPROM, suppose there is an EEPROM on the board, microcontroller will use microcontroller can use I2C, and they have read write operations carried out on the EEPROM, and but that is where like say this becomes an intra-system protocol. It is on chip. The system is on chip. On the system, the components of the transmitter and the sender is situated on the system itself, so on the board itself. And then there are this kind of protocols, SPI, I2C, those are going to be utilized for this kind of communication. When we say inter-system protocol, it is like from one microcontroller we are talking to another microcontroller, majorly. So it becomes like say if you consider a vehicle, automotive vehicle, a vehicle have an engine ECU, vehicle will have a transmission issue, clutch issue. It will have number of types of issues, and those are all those issues are communicating through each other through a CAN channel. So CAN communication is established between these issues, and it is discussing with discussing with each other, interchanging the information through these communication channels. And this is what is the intersystem protocol is. So it is about two different controllers talking to each other. So that is when we use an intersystem protocol. Then there are synchronous protocols and asynchronous protocols as well. You would have read it in your curriculum. Synchronous protocols typically talk about about time syncing. So but there is a clock shared between the two devices, and then you are discussing with each other with that time sync to each other. While in asynchronous protocol, you would be directly talking to each other without any time sharing. So you are or can it's like an asynchronous protocol, but otherwise SPI and I2C, you can see those are synchronous protocols. Then there is again a concept of simplex, half duplex, or full duplex communications. Simplex is typically talking about a unidirectional communication. Half duplex is again a unidirectional communication at a time. So unidirectional communication, simplex and half duplex difference is like simplex you can consider about a communication between a keyboard and a controller. So keyboard and controller, it is just a simplex. So keyboard doesn't get any information from controller. It is just simple controller. Keyboard is sending information. So information is taking from the keyboard or a display device. So display device, you are just LED displays there. You are just sending information to display device. So it is just an simplex communication. Half duplex becomes like kind of walkie talkie. You are talking at one time. You have to say that okay, I'm over, then the second person will take over the communication channel, and he will establish his communication, and he will talk. So it is unidirectional at one point of time. So it will become it will have it will have from point A to point B communication at one point of time, and after that it will establish from point B to point A communication. So it becomes a half duplex. And full duplex is like at a time we are kind of communicating, we are discussing, we are talking. So it is like completely bidirectional communication. We typically talk on mobile phones as well. So these are typical communication protocols or channels what we can think about. Those are there on the embedded system. So far we have understood the components, real components of the embedded system. Like we know there is an IO, there is a memory, there is some timing device or a timing timer applications or an RTOS available, and then there are some communication channels are available. So this everything is available to us. Now how I can write my software on top of it? So for that the software can be written, this is how typically a software architecture looks like. You write the device drivers. So you will see there is a separation segregation between two. This is an hardware, typically a microcontroller, and it will have peripherals, it will have memory, it will have some system on chip, like say different devices connected on the chip itself. And then this is the software. So I know what is lying below on this hardware. Now how that is utilized within the software, that is where the software architecture helps you to know. So first comes is the device driver. You write device drivers for all the interfaces, those are there for you from the microcontroller. So it can be GPIO device driver, it can be ADC device driver, it can have PWM frequency input, you can have I2C, it can have SPI, CAN, timer, it can have all the device driver. It will have a device driver for all the features that a microcontroller is providing to us. On top of these device drivers, with the help of say timer driver, we can develop our memory driver and timer driver. We can devise OS, operating system is operating system sits on top of that. So when we uh, port operating system on a microcontroller based design, we utilize few of these drivers of the underlying drivers. Those are written. Then comes the middleware. So middleware is again something that is not going to change frequently in the due course of the time. Application logic is going to utilize it. It is actually on top of device driver, but giving some added services, added features. So it can be like a J1 and 3.9 stack or CAN open stack on top of CAN protocol, a TCP IP stack on top of Ethernet, and alarm management system, display drivers, memory management system. So it can have a middle layer have uh, uh, an algorithm written for giving better services to the application. And then comes the application can have or will have the real algorithm that is expected for the embedded system. So this is how this layered architecture of an embedded software will be there. In the device drivers, you can have it written in assembly language or C language. Operating system can have written in C language. Middleware can have written in C, C++ languages, and application can have it written in Java, MATLAB Simulink, C++. So you can have it written in. So different layers can have different languages implemented. That's what I had said it in one of the slides earlier. So this is how embedded software architecture looks like. So the embedded software design process is, if we go very quickly, I think we are running short of time. I will just quickly run you through the embedded software design process. So embedded software design process typically goes through four part of it: requirement phase, design phase, then the implementation phase, and testing phase. So requirement phase is where we decide like what I want to do, what I want, what exactly is expected from this product. So those are driven from the product requirements. Those are again segregated to the hardware requirement and software requirements. In the design phase, the hardware guy will have some dummy boards prepared for you, and by the time you will have your high level design and low level design on the paper or on some tools, you will be designing your how your software is going to look like. You will have your layered architecture. Just now what we saw in the layer architecture, you will be writing what all drivers you will be having. So all those things you will be doing in the design phase. In the implementation phase, you will be utilizing the dummy boards. Those are available with you. By the time the PCB preparation would be starting, and you will be developing, writing your algorithms and or doing your programming with the dummy boards. Those are designed in the design phase. And then the testing phase comes when you have unit testing, functional testing, integration testing. Then there are a lot of different types of testing: acceptance testing, reliability testing. There are different types of testings, but these are like three major testings. Those are carry out at the time of in the complete development process of software design. For the software design, there are some tool chains which are utilized. IDE is that a tool which is utilized. It provides there. You would have heard the name Eclipse. You would have heard name Keel, Code Warrior, Microsoft Visual Studio. This is an IDE. So it provides you a background or features to write a program, delete it, see the call hierarchy, write the definitions, see syntactical errors. So it will help you while writing the program. Emulator is like a device where it emulates you. So if you don't have a target board ready, you can emulate your computer itself as a target board, and that helps you. Emulator helps you to behave like a target for you. Assembler, compiler, linker and locator. So these are these tools come into picture when you are building your executable file. So assembler converts your assembly line code into machine line. Compiler converts your C++ code to the object file. Linker typically combines together the object files which are compiled by assembler and assembler and compiler. So it typically compiles things together for you. Then there is a locator, loader, and locator also comes into picture. Loader typically loads it to the memory, into the microcontroller. Locator is like used when linker is compiling things together. So you have a function call in other module. So when you are going when you are putting that, when you will be having your application running onto the microcontroller, at what memory address that function is going to be at. So that part locator is going to find out and will go give it to linker, and linker will link that function call to the real function definition. So that is how the linker locator loader is going to work for you. Debugger is to debug the programs while in running phase, so you can run the program and you can have a debugger connector and you can debug through the system. Then the future of embedded systems, I think this is uh, I think the future is the embedded systems. So if I just convert this future of embedded systems to future is the embedded systems, this there is nothing, it is not an exaggeration. So everything in your life is going to be an embedded system device. Everything you are going to use will be an embedded system device. So communication devices, you can see like say traffic lights, mobile phones, Google Maps, modems, routers. So traffic lights are not just the traffic lights now. Those are seeing just dumb pole that is standing in there and showing you green, orange, and yellow lights. But now it is started communicating through the like say automated vehicles, connected vehicles. This is going to be this is becoming a vital part of the communicate automated or say connected vehicle systems. Consumer appliances, your washing machine is smart now, your fridge, your TV, trimmers, gaming ovens, your gaming devices are giving you a real life experience. You are standing in front of your TV and you are playing cricket. So your hands are, your hand motions are captured, and then that is where like say embedded system is coming in. So um, all your consumer applications are becoming smarter and smarter per day. Military and space applications, it's like complete military. It's just now the word is internet of battle things. So complete military weapons, vehicles, wearable devices, traces, everything is getting connected together. So it is a big word, a big buzz into military system is like internet of battle things. So guided systems or smart ammunitions, it is all part of the embedded devices within itself. Medical devices, again, medical devices, you have seen the robotic surgeries. Just now you would have heard then some innovation that is coming up, smart chip that will go inside your body, will pick up the covid the coronavirus, pick like separate out the coronaviruses, pick it up and kill it separately. So it is that level the embedded system is going in. And the all other devices, if you go into an hospital, you see EEG, AMG, ECG, defibrillator, pacemakers, you name the device and that device is an embedded device. Embedded industrial uses is again like process automation, industrial robots. It's all about an embedded device itself. Automotive industry is completely going through fetch shift, and the embedded devices are becoming more and more prominent. IoT is playing a big role in there. So robots are used in production, the connected vehicles. There are number of innovations coming into a car itself. So if you are sitting inside the car, the window glasses are smart glasses. The wheel is itself is smart. The chair you are sitting on to it is a smart. So there are different functions coming out of this. Home automation is again, I think it will be more of a repetition, because in the home automation will come up with like security solutions, entertainment solutions, kitchen solutions. It will come up with number of solutions which will be comprising of the embedded devices together.